A captain's going down with his ship. You should look at the new Hiya Toys, Alien, Dallas, Spacesuit, Exquisite Mini. Exquisite Mini is a new standard setting series for 1/18th scale, featuring super articulation action figures under Hiya Toys. When Hiya Toys first previewed images of the Nostromo crew members in their spacesuits done in their Exquisite Mini style and size, I'm sure everybody could hear me scream. With that being said, let's actually figure out how tall Dallas stands in his spacesuit. Grabbing this trusty ruler of mine and put it at the very top of Dallas's domed head, the figure stands, like the others, 4.5 inches in height, or about 11.5 centimeters tall. If something, by the way, seems a bit off on Dallas, you're not the only one that's seeing it. We're going to talk more about that in a second. In the meantime, though, let's compare Dallas with some of the other figures we've already looked at, all in their spacesuits. Here's Dallas next to Lambert. I'm just making sure she's not going to fall over on me. Here's Dallas next to Kane. Again, I really feel like I've got these figures so far away. Have I increased the depth of this table? Maybe my arms are getting a little shorter. And of course, here he is next to Ripley. Ripley being really the only exception to the rule, with her helmet is a little bit different. She doesn't have the lamp light on top of it. All the other figures are sharing the same bodies, and for the most part, all the same helmets. Kane's is a little bit slightly varied because, of course, it's got the punctured-in glass there where the entry of the facehugger would have been. But all the other figures are pretty much, using the same bodies. Different tweaked colors, of course, each one of their colors reflecting, of course, the colors of the spacesuits that the crew member wear in the movie, all nicely replicated in a smaller 4-inch scale. Running through the things that come included with Dallas, starting as we do with all these reviews for Hiya Toys, comes included with a display stand. Promise, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I know so much time gets spent in the other reviews talking about these display stands. I'm going to quickly summarize things up for you. You get a rectangular display stand, peg down below that's going to attach to the feet. And on the bottom, you've got little slotted areas that, taking then these eye brackets, I don't feel like I am summarizing these. You take these little eye brackets, these fit on the underside like this, and then, you can take yourself other display stands. This came included with Lambert. Doesn't really matter. They're all identical, and these all attach. So you can really increase the size of the terrain in which you got these figures displayed. Did I spend a lot of time talking about display stands? I really hope I didn't. Really love these. I'm going to move that to the side. Dallas also comes included with pretty much the same accessories, just short of a few little tweaks of paint. The same accessories that came also included with Lambert. For example, he comes included with his flashlight. Now, I'm going to bring in a couple of these right now. This is Dallas's flashlight. This is Lambert's flashlight. I mean, I would really be hard-pressed to say, like, this is specifically Lambert's, this is specifically Dallas. The only one that really does stand out to me like a sore thumb is the one that came included with Kane. And I can't 100% say that all the Kanes would have the more dimmer light. Maybe it just happens to be the one that came included with my Kane. But other than that, I mean, it looks like they are identical to one another. I can't help but also notice that Kane's, for example, has a little more wear-away areas, like they've painted in some extra paint, which seems to be the case, or doesn't seem to be the case when it comes to Dallas's. His looks a little cleaner. I wonder, again, if that's intentional. If you have picked up Kane, let me know if this is the same type of state that you saw your flashlight in. Not your flashlight, Kane's flashlight. So it comes included with the flashlight. The same also thing that came included with Lambert, he comes included with his gun. Just to show you, where's Lambert's? Just grabbing Lambert's here off to the side. Doesn't really matter. They're all molded exactly the same. They all have still the same amount of red paint. Maybe, if anything, I mean, now that I'm really looking at it, Lambert's might seem a little more matte in paint. Dallas's almost seems a little cleaner. Again, it could probably just be my eyes playing tricks on me. And then the last thing that comes included also with Dallas is the required hands for basically holding all the things we just finished having a look at. Dallas's were the exact same hands. I don't actually, you know what? I have Dallas's right now, or Lambert's on right now. I'm going to show you the difference between the two. I've already put Lambert's in place, so you can kind of see what's going on here. And this is the one that comes included with Dallas. Looks to be the exact same hand, and also seems to be the exact same hand also on this side. That's for holding the flashlight. Identical. Which makes sense, of course, if they're going to be standard issued spacesuits. Maybe, again, the coloring is going to be about slightly changed, but you would imagine they probably would make sense to have the same accessories across the board. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Dallas. I did mention, kind of teased earlier into this review, that something seemed a little off on the figure. I'm going to talk about that right now. I'm going to pick up the figure first of all, so you guys can get a closer look at this. If you think for a second, wait a minute, does he have a face hugger on his face? No, he doesn't. The problem with Dallas, at least on mine, is I've noticed that his head is really loose. I'm going to go ahead and take the helmet off here, at least the top of it. First of all, I just want to show you what the helmet looks like. And we'll bring in Lambert's so you guys can see. Paint doesn't look too much different, but once again, poor Lambert seems to get the worst of them. Although I gotta say, there's a fair bit of oxidization on the back of Dallas's helmet as well. You can kind of see. There's a lot more blue on Dallas's than was on Lambert's. The tube's attached the exact same way. There's a little hose hole on the bottom of it. And attached, actually, in neither of the cases really I had these attached, but just to kind of quickly show you. Just take the hose and feed it into the supplied hole. The hole that's just on the bottom of it. You just attach it in a place like that. Whew, gotta make sure I'm covering all the territory here. So we're going to go ahead and unplug that. Let's go remove the helmet carefully because I don't want to drop his head and have it rolling onto the floor. Just attaches like that. Now again, like, this is his head. It's so strange for me just to be yanking it out like this. Normally, in a perfect world, it would just be attached into the ball joint. But I don't know, for some reason, on Dallas's, his head doesn't just want to stay in place. This is what it would look like once the top of the dome has been removed. This is what Dallas's head would look like underneath. And to get the full effect, not that we would have to apply much effort after that, we're going to go ahead and just carefully remove his head and put the rest of the helmet down below. Popping as best we can get. Like, there's the ball joint, right? There's the socket. Pretty self-explanatory. And yet, I can't seem to get the head 100% on there. It's like it wants to go on, and then it just, as quickly as I think I've got it on, it pops back off on me. I'm going to see how long this stays on the figure. Let's hope it stays on for the rest of this review. You know, to the credit of Dallas, not so much the fact that he doesn't have the easiest of times attaching to the ball joint, but I got to say he's got one of the better head sculpts so far of what we've seen. In a 4-inch scale, of course, that's something we always have to keep in consideration. The sizing of these figures, it's harder to get very minute details. Smaller details, especially like face recognition for these characters, can be a little bit more difficult. So far from what we've seen with Lambert and the previously looked at Ellen Ripley, I gotta say, like, Dallas does have the better of the head sculpts of so far what we've seen. Now, of course, the true test to this is eventually when we get ourselves the Nostromo crew members in their regular fatigue outfits. The stuff that, of course, they're wearing on the ship deck. I would imagine that that might be a harder time to kind of be able to say, okay, that's the head sculpt. It's a bit off, or I think they've done a pretty good job of it. Here, at least, you got the helmet going over top of it, so it's going to hide some of it. But I don't feel like I need to hide as much here when it comes to Dallas. The head sculpt seems definitely better of the ones that we've looked at so far. Still don't understand why his head keeps popping off like this. Maybe it's almost as if like the socket for the head is too big, that it just doesn't hold the ball joint properly. I don't know. I just hope the head isn't going to fall off on me. As for the rest of his body, pretty much stock issue, standard issue space outfit. So I'm going to again bring in, you know, we spent a lot of time comparing with Lambert. Let's bring in Kane, for example. He's had enough rough enough go, so let's bring him in. Color's certainly a lot brighter here in Dallas's case. More the brighter pink. Lots of different shades of pink happening here too. I'm just one last look. There's Kane, Dallas, side to side. Seems like the backpacks are the same. Seems most of their outfits are exactly the same as well, but it's definitely the color that differs the one from the other. Dallas, as I said, there's several different pinks happening here. Like the parts of his elbow, which is something I do definitely want to talk about. The parts of his elbow are more of a darker pink, almost even borderlining red. While you've got the more neon pink up here at the top and a more lighter muted pink down below here. And even like his torso area seems to have several different pinks all kind of coming together here. He does have the little holster. I didn't spend a lot of time talking about that, but that's where the gun, of course, can be housed. You just fit that gun inside of there. A bit tight quarters, as we already discussed when we had a look at Lambert. But yeah, standard issue body. I don't mean to say it in such a way I'm dismissing the sculpt that Hiya Toys put into it. It's a really nice looking body, but having already now looked at this the 4th time around, we're kind of running in circles here. Same body, but certainly appreciate the amount of color and extra brightness that they've added to this. Similar again to the suit that you would have had in the movie. Getting a closer look at his legs. I do like that the scuffed areas here on his legs are painted. So it does look like these outfits have been worn. They're not brand new spacesuits that they're putting on for the very first time. You would imagine that they've gone on several missions where they all required to wear their suits. And there is definitely some wear and tear happening here. Some scuffing of extra brown and just like a dry brushing almost of gray that they've added to the suits themselves. It really does. It makes me appreciate the fact that they're putting this much level of detail into something so small in the first place. Okay, let's talk about the articulation of the figure. Well, we've already discussed the elephant in the room. Still, again, Dallas's head just doesn't want to stay properly in place. But normally, in a perfect world, he'd be able to rotate the head all the way around, up, down, and back and forth. As for his arms, at least, his arms don't have any issues of staying in their sockets. Those can come out. And still, again, you've got the softer plastic for the shoulder pads. They're attached here rather than here. So when it comes to moving the arms, no problem. I don't know if I would still recommend the idea of rotating the arms all the way around, but you can't really do that on a regular human being anyways. So at least you can get the full 90-degree angle bend. You can even actually bring up a little higher than that. And yeah, you can bring the arms forward and back. There is a swivel in the elbow, and this is a correction I did want to make from the previous reviews I've already done, now this being the fourth one, pretty much of the same body. I did say in those other earlier reviews that there's only just a straight swivel here and there's no elbow bend. In actual fact, there is an elbow bend, but it's so hard to see until you start bending it. If you start bending it, well, you're already just taking a leap of faith assuming that there is an elbow bend, but if you rotate it around, there is, in fact, Virginia, a Santa Claus, and there's an elbow bend right there. I guess, didn't want to take the leap of faith assuming that there wasn't an elbow bend, but anybody up to this point that has been commenting in those other 3 videos, Guy, there is elbow bends. I apologize. There was an elbow bend on these figures. So yeah, there is an elbow bend. Appreciate the fact that they did actually put that in there. The hands, of course, swivel all the way around. You can hinge those back and forth. 2 points of articulation in the torso. There's one right there. And then if I lift the front plating here of his suit, you can see there's a secondary ball joint right here. So there's a cut here, the cut here, and that comes together basically so you get an upper torso bend, and you get an upper torso, lower torso, mid-torso bend as well. Legs split out on Dallas. You can take the legs and bring them forward. You can bring them back as well. You're not going to get much mileage really when it comes to these legs anyways, but at least you can get, 45 degrees? And about 45 degrees back? About 45 degrees back. There is a bend at the knee. So yes, there's a bend at the knee. There's a bend at the elbow, correcting that from my earlier reviews. There's also a swivel. And when it comes to the ankle, there's an ankle pivot. You can move them back and forth. And yeah, you can rotate them all the way around as well. Dallas, despite the shortcomings of his head not staying properly under the socket, I think from a head sculpt standpoint, he might actually be my favorite we've looked at so far. I mean, of course, this is all debated on the idea of whether you're going to be displaying your figures anyways. Let's just slide them back just a little bit. There we go. It's rather whether the case, though, if you're going to be displaying these figures with or without the helmets. Just for the proof in the pudding, let's bring in the other figures we've already had a look at. There's Lambert. Very top-heavy figures, of course, now that you've got the helmets in place. There's Lambert. I'm going to leave Ripley off for the time being. Let's put more of the center spotlight on the rest of the supporting crew. Kane on the one side, Lambert on the other side, Dallas right in the middle. Different colors, of course, approaching each one of these figures so that they are different from one another. I like the idea that they are kind of using the primary colors. Yellow, not quite red, but pink and blue. And again, each one of the figures, even though they are using the same bodies, at least you're getting different head sculpts underneath. Noted, at least for Dallas, well, he doesn't have the easiest time of keeping onto his ball joint. His neck just keeps wanting to give way. I would say, at least of the figures we've looked at from Hiya Toys, at least of the Nostromo crew members in their spacesuits, Dallas by far has the best head sculpt that we've gotten. Not really sure the deal with Dallas's head and why it doesn't stay properly in place. I mean, it's a ball socket hole on the base of his neck, and then it's a ball joint at the top of his torso. That seems pretty straightforward. And yet, for all the time and effort I'm getting to actually keep the head in place, it stays on there until I start moving the head, and then it comes free again. It's even more of an issue if you got the helmet on top of his head, because if the head happens to get loose underneath, you sort of have to dismantle the helmet to get the head back in place, and then put the helmet back together. I feel it's even more of a stinger in this case because unlike the other figures we've already had a look at, the Lambert, the Kane, and the Ripley, I feel more inclined to want to display Dallas with his helmet off. Because I think of the 4 figures, this one looks the closest like the actor from the movie. It's not 100%, no, but I think it's a better head sculpt than what we got with both the Lambert, the Ripley. We're not going to even talk about Kane. Kane's got problems of his own. yeah, I'm going to have to see if I can maybe fix the head sculpt, or at the very least, put him on display like you're seeing right now, and just don't move him at all, for the risk that his head may roll onto the floor. My cat may come along and decide to steal it. Then it's a decapitated Dallas, and nobody wants that either. Now, the real test in all of this is whether Hiya Toys will be releasing eventually these figures in their regular crew outfits. I would certainly love to see that, but then there's really nothing being hidden. I mean, with all of these figures, you really could hide any bit of a lesser likeness on these head sculpts. You could hide them really with the domed helmets. If they release crew outfit Nostromo members, then there's nothing to be hidden. I mean, the likeness is either going to be there or not. I think in good hands, these alien figures are in Hiya Toys' hands, because they have been producing some really impressive looking figures. Again, you got to keep in mind that they're a 4-inch scale. If they were bigger scale figures, then the likeness, maybe the paint, the way that they've been painting these figures could be a little bit more accurate to the movie. But again, to appreciate the fact that these are 4-inch scale figures, and the fact that you have removable helmets and standalone accessories that can go along with these figures, really good stuff coming out from Hiya Toys. I just hope, I can only hope, we're going to be getting crew member Nostromo members outside of just the spacesuit figures that we've been getting so far. And I can only hope I finally can get Dallas's head to stay properly in place. If not, I can't bang the figure at all, because the head's going to go rolling onto the floor, and then that's the end of it. Big thank you, though, to the folks once again over at Hiya Toys that did provide the sample of Dallas in his spacesuit that we could have a look at in this video. What do you guys have been thinking of these videos as of late? Let me know down below in the comments section if you've been enjoying these. And maybe for your video question for today, of the 4 figures that we've looked at in their spacesuits, which one do you think was the best? Let me know down below in the comments section. If you are new, make sure you are hitting that subscribe button down below. If you are new here, make sure as well you're turning on the bell notification. And whether you're new or old, young or old, make sure as well you're keeping your peepers peeled to this channel. While we have wrapped up things, at least for Spacesuit Nostromo members, there's definitely going to be a lot more Hiya Toys reviews coming your way in the not so distant future. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.